can, you can mute or hide your face or whatever you like. But yeah, I'm gonna post this up on YouTube later on, so anyone can see it. So here we go. We're gonna start with the solstice. We're gonna slide right it from the solstice into Christmas, and then we're gonna look at the astrology of Jesus, which is, of course, pure speculation, but it's educated speculation. I've read many different astrologers and theologians' versions on when Jesus was actually born. And I'm going to share with you what I think is the best guess, the best date, and I'm going to show you why it makes sense. So let's get started. The solstice. Everyone knows, I believe, that the solstice is the shortest day of the year and the longest night, right? The word solstice is actually from Latin sol, meaning sun. Stis is a root of stationary or stillness. So it's basically when the sun appears to go higher and higher and higher in the sky throughout the spring, and it reaches the summer solstice, and it seems to stand still and then reverse direction and get
Brenda
lower and lower and lower throughout
got
the year.
Brenda's date.
Hi, Gina. Gina, are you there?
Oh,
I'm going to ask y'all to mute yourselves if you got stuff going on in the background. There you go. Beautiful. And of course, unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Of course, I love questions. Um, but yeah. So yeah, the sun appearing to be still in the sky and then changing direction and going south and south. And when I say up and down, you might have noticed that the sun, of course, comes up in the east and goes down in the west. And what happens is the days get longer, it comes up and goes up higher and higher. And it comes up a little further to the north, higher and higher as the days get longer. So what we're measuring is the height of the sun at noon. It's this high in summer and it's that high in winter. There's always a change. And so the winter solstice is when the sun reaches that lowest point in the sky and then reverses direction and the days begin to get longer. So that's what is meant by solstice. And so, in every pagan tradition, there's a huge celebration around the solstices. These are the most important times of the year because we recognize the change of seasons. The equinoxes are the spring and fall seasons beginnings. The solstices are the summer and winter beginnings of the season. So this is a part of life everywhere on the planet, has always been this way, and it's been celebrated everywhere in every culture throughout history. So the winter solstice is extra important because if you're going through the year and the sun's in pretty good shape, but then it's getting lower and lower and lower, it's coming towards the horizon, and you might be afraid that the sun's just going to disappear and go away, right? So the solstice helps you see that the sun has stopped going down and starts going back up. And this is where Christmas Day comes in, because I think we all are familiar with the fact that Christianity borrowed a lot of pagan traditions and wrapped them into the Christian traditions. And so the question I always had, well, why isn't Christmas Day on the same day as the solstice? Doesn't that make sense? Well, actually, here's what happens. As the sun is going further and further down during the fall, and then it's going further and further up during the winter and spring, it moves ever so slightly up each day. And what happens is after roughly 3.8 days, the sun has moved up 1 degree, 1 degree out of 360. And of course, 360 degrees is how we have always measured latitude and longitude, the movement of things around the earth, the measurement, et cetera, et cetera. And so after 3.5 or 3.8 days after the solstice, you can concretely measure that the sun has gone up 1 degree. And if you take the solstice, which is generally the 21st, but it could be around the 22nd, and you add 3.8 days to that, it puts December 25th as the day that you can finally ascertain that the sun has moved back up 1 whole degree. That's why December 25th is celebrated in multiple cultures throughout the globe as the birth of the Son of God. Not just Christianity. We've got, let me see how many different religions we have. I just did a Google search for a sort of easy listing of how many sons of God were born on December 25th. Zoroaster, Osiris, Horus, Adonis, Tammuz, Dionysus, Hermes, Prometheus. These are all myths. These are all mythologies. And the reason why the hero or the key figure in the mythology is given his birthday as December 25th is because everyone in the ancient world knows that that's the special day. That is the return of the sun. We're afraid it was going away, it was sinking down, 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 and now it's come back up. And that's a big deal, not only on the physical level, but think about the spiritual level, the the metaphorical level. The sun is the most powerful and the most stable thing, physical thing in the physical world. Therefore, it is metaphorically a representation of God, or if you prefer, spirit. Spirit, God being the all powerful, the almighty, the all encompassing, the omniscient, the omnipresent, the power, the force that never goes away or never wavers. So that's all in a spiritual realm, right? We're here on the earth in a physical realm. And so the closest thing we have to God, if you will, is the sun. So that is the nature of sun worship, recognizing that physical thing that is the closest to a spiritual constant or something we can count on as being all powerful and all omniscient, all knowing, all everything, the sun. So the worship of the sun is part of that recognition of the power. And then the child of God or the son of God being born on the day that the sun returns back into power. This is again a metaphor for this is when God sends his or her child onto the physical plane. That's why all of the sons of God in all the different religions are born on December 25th. And that, of course, is why the popes and the Catholic priests and cardinals and whoever they were assigned Jesus' birthday to December 25th. Everyone, I think, should know by now that there's, if you go by the historical record, it's simply not feasible for Jesus to have been born in December. If you look at the Bible, if you read the Bible and you pay attention to what you're reading, you know that there was a tax being levied by the Roman Empire on all of their subjects, and they all had to go back to their hometown to register for the tax. And that's part of the Bible story because Joseph, his hometown was Bethlehem, and that's why Mary and Joseph were traveling to Bethlehem. Okay, you don't travel in the winter in the ancient world. It's not even advised to travel in winter in the modern world. It's difficult. It's dangerous. And back in the ancient days, before we had cars and airplanes and powered ships, it was almost, if not impossible, to travel during the winter. So the December birthday for Jesus is is made up. And I don't want to detract from Christianity or your belief or your faith. I do want to detract from your belief and faith in what the popes have been telling you for 2,000 years. The religions have changed the message in more ways than one. And what I'm going to show you now with the birth chart of Jesus is going to renew your faith if you're having a crisis of faith by what I've already said. Because the astrology of Jesus is the most extraordinary astrology that you can ever find. There was an event, an astronomical and astrological event that occurred around 7 BC. And this lines up not around exactly in 7 BC. Excuse me. We don't estimate in astrology, we're precise. There was a unique astronomical, astrological event that happened in 7 BC, and that lines up with the records we have for Roman Empire taxation. So let me get on to the astrology now so you can see what I see, and I think you'll really appreciate just how special and unique Jesus was. He, whether you believe in the Christian story or not, this is extraordinary. This is an extraordinary human being, and the astrology chart backs that up. So, as an astrologer, I'm looking at people's astrological charts, and some people have a strong Mars, and some people have a strong Sun, and some people have a strong Moon, and some people have a weak Jupiter. We're sizing up people's character and people's temperaments and people's strengths and weaknesses by looking at their birth chart. And that's basically what astrology does. It tells us who we are and what we are made of. And it also helps show us destiny and purpose. So when we look at the birth chart of Jesus, there are two extraordinary events. Not let me rephrase that. There are two events that happen on a somewhat regular basis, but both of them happening at the same time has only happened once in 3,500 years. I did the research with my software. I can project astrology, lineups all the way I want to go into the future. I projected all the way up to the year 3000, and I projected back all the way to 500 BC just to see if anything like this had ever showed up before or since Jesus was born. And so the two things that we're going to see, I'll show you in a moment, but let me describe them to you first. The first thing that's unique and special is the meeting of Jupiter and Saturn in the sign of Pisces. Now, Pisces is the most spiritually oriented sign there is in astrology. So when things happen in Pisces, whatever they are, we're going to have a spiritual nature to those planets, to those events. Jupiter itself is considered to be the ruling planet of Pisces. That is to say, there is a natural affinity between the planet Jupiter, which think of planets as actors doing stuff, and the sign Pisces. Think of the Pisces as the adjective, the way it's done. So we have a spiritual planet, Jupiter, in a spiritual sign, Pisces. Um, if you want to think of the planets in terms of chakras, which I find very, very helpful, you know that Jupiter, because in mythology Jupiter is the king of the gods, Jupiter is the crown chakra, which is one's connection to spirit or the unseen side of life. So anyone born with Jupiter in Pisces is going to have a natural ability for spiritual work. And when I say spiritual, I use the word spiritual interchangeably with energy. So if you're an energy worker, if you're a Reiki master, if you just feel energy in a nondescript way, but you know you're feeling something that you can't touch, taste, see, smell, or hear, but you feel it, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about crown chakra and spirit and energy. If you want to take it to the next step and call it the religious version of spirit, so be it. That works just great. You don't have to. I'm just saying you don't have to. If you're pagan or an atheist, you don't have to go there. But if you are a spiritualist or a religious person, then you obviously see the connection between the crown chakra and God, right? This is your awareness or your connection to God. So that's Jupiter. And then Saturn, what's really cool about Saturn, Saturn is your third chakra. This is your physical center of gravity. This is the chakra of manifestation. So basically, when we're bringing Jupiter, the spiritual planet, together with Saturn, where literally it's a metaphor for bringing spirit to earth. That's and in the most spiritual sign of all, Pisces, this is a special deal. And I did a little research earlier today, and I don't know why I put my research down there, but as it turns out, in the 3,500 years since 500 BC, going forward up to 3,000 AD, Jupiter will meet Saturn in Pisces 14 times. 14 days out of 1,227,500 days, only 14 times. So can you see how we're narrowing the odds on this event that we call Jesus' birth? I believe that's extraordinary. And so the other event that is much more common, because it happens every month, is the new moon. The sun and the moon, the sun's here, the moon catches up, and boom, we have a new moon on a specific day. Okay, that happens every month. The thing is, in 7 BC, and I'll give you the date in a minute, because I'm going to let you try to guess Jesus' sign. That'll be fun. On a certain, we know it's not Capricorn, though. I'll tell you that much. You can guess the 11 other signs. Karen, I don't hear you. Did you want to say something, or you're muted?
Yeah, I was gonna guess Capricorn.
Right. That's the December birthday. We know he's not Capricorn. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to the guessing game in a minute. Where was I? So yeah, the other extraordinary event about the sun and the moon meeting each other, the new moon, is that at only one specific longitude and latitude on the planet does that new moon occur on the eastern horizon, meaning at sunrise, right? If you're, and of course, we're getting to the point that it did happen in Bethlehem on a certain day in 7 BC. It did not happen in Cairo, Egypt. It happened in North America. It did not happen in Australia. The new moon happened everywhere at once, but having it be right on the horizon, meaning at sunrise, there's only a very narrow band of area on the earth in which that can occur. And it happened in Bethlehem. So we turn now to the story of the three wise men, right? Well, who were they following? What were they following? They were following a star, they say in the Bible. The thing is, the three wise men were astrologers, and they knew that there was going to be a new moon on the same day that Jupiter and Saturn met in Pisces. And they knew that that was something extraordinary that had never happened before and was in their lifetimes was never going to happen again for thousands of years. And so they did their calculations with their pens and papers and their maps, and they figured out where this new moon would be occurring at sunrise. That's why they hooked it to Bethlehem to look for the new king, right? Jesus was not just king of the Jews, he was the king of the Magi. He was the number one Magi. That's why they came to honor their own king. And when I say Magi, it's not just magical in the sense of you can pull a rabbit out of a hat or do card tricks. That's the modern version of magic. Magi is a sacred and holy occupation, and it's based on a mastery of the physical plane so that you may manipulate via spirit if you understand what's going on the physical. They were magical beings, and Jesus was the most magical of them all. If you remember the list I gave you of gods or other sons of God born on December 25th, Hermes was among that list. Hermes, or Mercury in the Roman, is the fifth chakra. Mercury, the fifth chakra. He's the god of mind and communication. He is the god of magic. Merlin, the magician, gets his name from Mercury, right? Mercury represents magi. And so Jesus and Moses are both five-letter words. And I'm not saying Jesus' real name was Jesus or Moses' real name was Moses, but the traditions we've been handed down in our traditions follow this Roman mythology, and they give Jesus a five-letter name so that if you have eyes to see, if you know what you're reading, you recognize that this is a magician. Same with Moses. They did magical tricks. Turning a staff into a snake, that's a magic trick. Splitting the Red Sea, that's a magician. That's a magi. Spitting into mud and rubbing it on a blind man's eyes and giving him his sight back, turning water into wine. These are high magic. So Jesus was the king of the magi as well as the king of the Jews, as well as this ascended master. He was a lot of special things. And so I'm going to show you the chart now so you can see what I'm looking at here. And this is the best guess supposed birth chart of Jesus. So you can see that this is the eastern horizon right here, this line. And you see that there's the moon and there's the sun. And I've got them set up. Let me animate this. So the moon is just a hair behind the sun. One moment, I'm going to let's see, I'm going to go forward by a minute. And you see there the moon and the sun are exactly at 4 degrees and 12/60ths of a degree of, well, hang on. I don't know if anyone could read that. I was going to let y'all try to guess what sign Jesus was. I don't know if you saw the chart already, but does anyone who doesn't recognize what they just saw, does anyone want to speculate or guess what they think Jesus was? And go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to to share.
Maybe Leo.
If you already saw it, don't give it away.
I didn't see it. Is it
Okay.
Leo?
Leo? No, not a Leo. Anybody else? I know we got about 12 folks in here. Hi, Valerie. Good to see you there.
Yeah.
And Bliss, uh, Gina, Rhonda. Anybody? Samantha. Hi. Anybody want to throw out a guess as to Jesus' sign? You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and say hi. Nope. Nobody. Okay. Oh, come on. Somebody. Anybody.
I saw it, but I didn't know what it was, so I had to look it up.
Okay. All right. I'm going to show everybody now. This is very surprising to me, because this is the last thing I would have guessed at first, but I'm going to explain to you why this makes perfect sense. It looks like Jesus was a Gemini. And the reason why this makes sense is that Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury. So not only are the sun and the moon on the horizon, it's a special occurrence anytime, they're at the horizon the same day. They're within 6 hours of Saturn and Jupiter being exactly conjunct in the sky. But the other thing about and he's got Mercury at the very last degree of Gemini. The thing about Gemini, besides being ruled by Mercury, things you should know about Samantha saw it. Okay. The things you should know about Gemini is that Gemini rules the shoulders, the arms, and the hands, right? Remember how I said fifth chakra? You got 5 fingers at the end of your hand. Jesus healed with his hands. He broke bread and the loaves and fishes with his hands. He did the miracles with his hands. Now, you don't have to be a hands-on healer to be a Gemini. There are other magi Gemini, like Paul McCartney, who is a magician with his hands, but the way he plays guitar and piano, right? It's just like, but every Gemini has an affinity with the hands. Yes. So the other thing about Gemini, because it's the throat chakra, Jesus' teachings, his spoken word that we still remember to these days. This was the most powerful thing he did, was the use of his voice. And so it just makes all kinds of sense that the king of the Magi, the miracle worker, the son of God, would have all these elements combined. So we see, and by the way, I tried to do the math, like, Jupiter and Saturn meeting on a certain day 14 times in 3,500 years. 14, that's 14 days out of 1,277,500 days. That's a tiny fraction. So that occurrence, and then lining up a new moon at the same time, at the same day. It has happened 4 other times that it occurred within a day or a couple of days, or a day and a half. But this day, May 29th, 7 BC, was the day when that new moon occurred closest to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. So that, my friends, is a once in a many thousands years occurrence. And so there you have it. We've got Jesus being born in May, at the end of May, which makes much more sense because the people can travel in the springtime back to their countries to pay their taxes and whatnot. It fits the Bible story. It fits the surviving taxation records of the Roman Empire. And more than anything else, the astrology, even if you didn't have the Roman taxation records, and even if you didn't have the Bible story, we know that somebody, astrologically, we know that somebody very, very extraordinary had to have been born on May 29th, 7 BC. And the three wise men knew. That's why they came to Bethlehem. So I am not afraid to say Merry Christmas. I don't have to mean it in a Christian religious way. The return of the Son of God is a universal principle. So Christmas Day, there's just a nice reflection in the Jesus mythology that we call Christmas Day, and the fact that the Son is reborn on this day every year. And so there you are. Merry Christmas. And let me know if you have any questions, y'all. Please fire away. And be happy comments or questions.
Okay, this
And-
might be silly, but the 7 BC, didn't the, I'm confused about that because didn't it start like the year Jesus was born should have been 1 AD?
Yeah, that's always perplexed me too, because AD always meant after dead, I thought. And so there's like a 33-year gap between BC and AD. It never stacked up, but the calendar is artificial. The calendar was just made up by, actually, our calendar was made up by Pope Gregory.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but we do, using the calendar we have today, we trace it back to that year at that time in that place, because the sun was there and the moon was there, and we know through the math and the science of calculation. Yeah. Valerie, did you have a question? I saw you try to talk a little minute ago.
No.
Okay, Valerie, it looks like you're talking, but we can't hear you. Do you want to try to type your question?
Uh-oh. You're talking to me.
Oh, there you are, Valerie. Okay. I think, Valerie, maybe you don't want to say anything, but you're not muted, so we hear your voice showing up.
Okay.
Okay. Debbie, did you want to ask something?
Well, I was just going to comment that it all makes sense, because if you follow the story, the shepherds were out, with their flocks in the field. So springtime.
Right, right,
Right.
right. It's just got to be springtime. Yeah, everything in the stories makes sense for a springtime birth.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now,
Cool. This
personally,
is cool.
I don't have any planets in Gemini. I don't think I have any friends who are Gemini. So I was a little disappointed to find out that Jesus was a Gemini, but it's like, you just got to roll with it. You just got to accept that, every sign has its own special qualities, and we can't all be exactly like Jesus, as much as we strive to be as best we can. But yeah, we can find good things about every sign, and we can all be sons and daughters of God. Right. Okay, y'all. Any other questions before we wrap this up?
Just
Debbie?
Johnny, I'm not familiar with what you do. I saw this on Facebook, so this is my first exposure to what you're doing. Can you
All
talk
right.
about yourself and what you do?
Sure, Karen. Thanks for asking. I'm an astrologer. So most of what I do is read people's astrological charts, like we just looked at Jesus' chart, his alleged chart. I look at your chart to see what is emphasized for you. So it helps you get a sense of purpose, what you're here for, what you're here to do. And the other main thing I do is I teach a class called Chakras, Mythology, and Astrological Symbolism. And that, I believe, is the most important work I'm here to do, because that's a teaching for everyone, whereas the reading is just for you or you or you or you, an individual. The class is something I believe should be taught in kindergarten. We should all get a sense of what our spiritual anatomy is comprised of, right? That is, I believe, more important than the physical. And so that's something that I've done driving around the country, coast to coast, teaching in person. I'm shifting more into online versions of that class. So if you or anybody else would like to have a class, it's about 2 to 2.5 hours long. We can set that up. I'm willing to teach, 5 or more, minimum of 5 people in any one setting, and we can do it online at your convenience, at our convenience. And that's the main stuff I do.
So I would just contact you if I want. I am a Gemini moon, and I've had my chart done by a lot of different people, and I know a little bit about it, but not a lot. But I'm a Reiki master, and I'd like to know more about the chakras and how I like how different systems dovetail. And it sounds like
Oh,
this is what you're focusing on, and I think this is important stuff. So I'm interested. I don't know if anybody else on the call might be. We could pull something together here.
Well, I have just shared my email address to contact me,
Okay.
and we can go from there in the chat, info@chakraology.org.
Okay. I'll reach you there and just say I'm interested, and maybe others will too. And
Yeah, and like I said, it could just be you and some friends, you know. 5, like I said, 5's the minimum. But if you have a larger group, of course, larger group, and if you have a large enough group, I'll drive to you. I'm sort of scaling back my tour schedule and not going out all the time anymore. But if
yeah,
you have 500 people, I'll come to wherever you are.
where are you?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay, I'm coming to Texas. And I had the Spiritual Fitness Center in Dallas, Texas for 5 years, where I brought teachers in, but
All right.
that's gone on. I've gone on from there. So you're in Austin. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I look forward to talking to you more about that and see what we can put together, Karen.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Anything? Any questions, comments?
Hi, Johnny.
Whatnot?
Yeah, I do have one, and yeah, I'm sorry. I just saw your notice about this class after you'd already been teaching it for 25 minutes. So I just jumped
Oh,
on and caught the tail end.
well,
But
it's being recorded, Valerie, so you can see the whole thing on YouTube by tomorrow.
oh, I got it. Okay, because you probably went over what my question is, but it is in my mind, understanding bits and pieces of astrology begins by saying, what is your birthday? When were you born? So, but you went another way to track back to this May 29th rather than December 25th. And I was wondering, like, what made your decision of even which calendar of time to use, Gregorian versus the other one,
Yeah.
etc.
It doesn't matter which calendar you use, as long as you have to translate into the Gregorian, because of the way we do our data and our numbers in astrology now. We have this book called the Ephemeris, which has the calculations of the planetary positions by fractions of a degree for every planet. And so that's all set up based on our current time and calendar system. So it doesn't really matter which calendar you use, because the day can be whatever, but you have to reference it back to the calendar we're on now, so that everyone can make sense. Does that answer your question? I know it seems a little complex, Valerie.
It does. And you had said it, but there was just, you were saying these magical people with 5-letter names to Jesus, Moses, and there was one more you mentioned, much more ancient. Who was that again?
Oh, what I mentioned Zoroaster. and Mithras and let's see, Tammuz, Dionysus, Adonis, Hermes, Prometheus, Osiris,
Okay.
Horus.
So
Yeah.
even though some of those are more than 5 letters, but okay, I get
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was just using Moses and Jesus because they're part of the Bible, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then the Bible was intentionally crafted to portray a certain message. And so
Gotcha.
that's why December 25th was selected to be Jesus' birthday. Right. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. I will be going back to watch the whole recording. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So my YouTube channel is Chakraology. So there's not a lot of videos on there, but I've been touring for 13 years, and I'm starting to wrap up the touring so I can focus more on the digital and the social media and virtual. So yeah, you'll be seeing more stuff there. Seems like there was one other element to your question, Valerie. And I skipped over it. Did I?
No, you covered the parts that I had asked about. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, anybody else? Gil, hope you're doing all right with the internet there. Gina, glad you could join us. Rhonda, any questions from anybody else before we wrap this up?
Thank you. This is fascinating.
Oh yeah, I know what I wanted to mention, and this does tie into your question, Valerie. I did not come up with this date. There is another astrologer. Her name is Christine Ahrens, and I saw her presentation. And I will, if you go to the YouTube, I will link her video presentation on this. It's very cerebral and very mathematical and very astrological. So my presentation is more designed for the layman, but you might enjoy seeing where she came from. But yeah, I got this from her. The date, the stuff about the solstice in 3.8 days, I figured out all by myself. So yes, this is a combination of my thought as well as the work of Christine Ahrens. Okay, y'all. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay.
Valerie, you got anything else?
Does it extend forward what you've done here to Epiphany?
That is a great question. I haven't looked at Epiphany, but yeah, that'd be worth checking out. Maybe next year. Yeah. All right, Gil, you doing all right? Good to see you again.
Trying to hit the unmute button. I don't do Zoom on my phone very often, but yeah, no, it was good stuff, man. I really like that. I'll have to talk to you when you get back here someday and go into some other details that I'll have to look them up again because I was trying to share them with Z and I'm like, I can't remember what the word anymore, but I know we used to teach it, but I want to see how it lines up with what you just shared. It's pretty cool.
Very
Good
good.
stuff.
I look forward to it. Yeah.
All
All right,
right.
everybody. Good night. Merry Christmas. Happy solstice. And catch you next time.
Namaste.